I find myself deep in the heart of McDowell County, West Virginia, once again. A place where the mountains hold secrets of a bygone era. Where every rock, every tree, every abandoned building tells a story of sweat, grit, and coal. Today, I'm in Gary, a town that once pulsed with life, now quietly forgotten by most of the world. But we're not here to forget. We're here to remember. And I'm going to tell you that story. Gary wasn't just any coal town. It was the crown jewel of the U.S. Coal and Coke Company, an affiliate of J.P. Morgan's industrial giant, U.S. Steel. This place was part of a grand vision, a sprawling industrial complex designed to fuel the fires of American industry for more than half a century. The coal mined here wasn't your run-of-the-mill stuff either. It was high-quality, smokeless fuel, the kind that powered battleships, locomotives, and factories. Coal that helped build the backbone of America. Gary Hollow wasn't just a town. It was a series of 12 interconnected company towns, each one linked by roads and rail, stretching through this rugged landscape. At its peak, Gary was a bustling hub of activity, employing thousands of miners from all corners of the world. A 1915 report listed the town's workforce: white Americans, African Americans, Hungarians, Romanians, Italians, Poles, and Slavs, all working side by side in the belly of the earth, a real melting pot, long before the term became a cliche. But unlike many of the fly-by-night coal camps that dotted Appalachia, Gary was built with care, with purpose. U.S. Steel needed to keep its best workers, and they spared no expense in making Gary a place people wanted to stay. By the 1940s, the population swelled to nearly 15,000 people. They had everything: a dozen churches, company stores, schools, restaurants, athletic fields, a bowling alley, and even a country club. This wasn't just a coal town. It was a full-fledged community. The 1923 U.S. Coal Commission gave it a 90 out of 100 points for cleanliness, safety, and urban amenities. Think about that. This place wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. And it's no wonder why. Gary was responsible for a quarter of the coal mined in McDowell County during World War II, feeding the insatiable demand for steel that was helping to win the war. U.S. Steel had a vested interest in keeping this place going, and it shows. The houses, the buildings, they were built to last. And you can still see that today. Even with most of the town now quiet, the echoes of industry long gone. As you drive through Gary today, it's hard to imagine the bustling streets of its heyday. But if you look closely, you can still see the remnants of what once was. The old churches, many of them Catholic, stand as monuments to the European immigrants who came here in search of a better life. Like Our Lady of Victory Catholic Church, standing as a reminder of those immigrants who came here to work in the mines. They came from Europe, from the deep south, from all over, drawn by the promise of a better life. This was the American melting pot, right here in coal country. Black, white, Catholic, Protestant, all sharing the same struggle. In the coal camps, the divisions got blurry. When you live and work side by side, it's harder to hate your neighbor. Driving through these streets, you see it. The remnants of a community that didn't just fade away, it was ripped apart by economics. And yet, there's dignity in what remains. Old schools, like Gary High, abandoned homes, crumbling walls clinging to the hills. These aren't just ruins. They're markers of lives lived, families raised, dreams once so tangible you could almost taste them. The railroad tracks still line the roads, a reminder of how everything here was once tied to coal. And Gary High School, home of the Coaldiggers, yes, that was their mascot, the Coaldiggers, was once a source of local pride. These days, the population is down to around 700 people, but there's still something in the air, a quiet dignity in the way the town holds on. But as with so many of these Appalachian towns, Gary's story has a darker chapter. By the 1970s, the coal was running out. The high-quality seams had been mined, and U.S. Steel, ever the pragmatist, saw the writing on the wall. In the early 80s, they began to pull out. The last mine closed in 1982, and by then, the town's unemployment rate skyrocketed to 90%. Think about that, 90%. The highest in the country. Thousands of people, many who had lived their entire lives in these hollers, were left with nothing. U.S. Steel sold off the houses, packed up their records, and left Gary to fend for itself. The years that followed were tough, brutal even. The town's population dropped like a stone. And by 1983, Gary was a ghost of its former self. A few mines reopened here and there, but the glory days were long gone. In the 1990s, Gary was still clinging to life, but the jobs were scarce, and the future was uncertain. Today, what remains is a far cry from the bustling company town that once shipped millions of tons of coal across the nation. But for those who remain, there's pride in this place, pride in the history, and pride in the fact that they're still here. The thing about Gary and places like it is that they were more than just towns. They were communities built on shared labor, shared hardship, and a shared sense of purpose. The miners who came here weren't just looking for a paycheck. They were building a life, a future. And U.S. Steel, for all its corporate coldness, understood that. They built schools, churches, and clubs because they knew that if you wanted the best workers, you had to give them something worth staying for. Gary was part of the great American experiment. Can people from different backgrounds, different countries, different races live and work together? And for a while, it worked. Sure, there was tension. Racism was alive and well, but it's hard to hate the man sweating next to you in the coal mine. Gary was integrated long before the civil rights movement gained steam, and by 1964, the schools were fully desegregated. In a place like this, you either worked together or you didn't work at all. This place, like so many others in Appalachia, was built on the back of coal. And while coal might be a dirty word today, it wasn't always. This is what powered the country. Heated homes, built skyscrapers, won wars. To dismiss that history is to dismiss part of what made this country what it is. Sure, the world's moved on. But standing here, it's hard to ignore just how much of America was built right here, in places like Gary. This isn't just nostalgia. There's something beautiful in the stubbornness of a town that refuses to disappear. Even with so much gone, the pride remains. It's in the way that people talk about their town, in the stories they pass down, in the old buildings that stand as silent witnesses to a different time. Driving through now, it's easy to romanticize the past, to get caught up in the nostalgia of what once was. But there's a harsh truth here too. Coal built these towns. And when the coal ran out, so did the support. U.S. Steel walked away, and the people left behind had to figure out how to survive. Some did, many didn't. So yeah, this is Gary, West Virginia, a place that once mattered. A place that still does. A forgotten corner of America with a history that deserves to be remembered. It deserves respect. It's more than just another old coal town. It's a reminder that the places we often overlook have their own stories to tell. A reminder that these are the very places that built the world we live in today. Keep these places in your rearview mirror at your own peril, because they built the road you're driving on.